The Law & Order franchise might be generally lighthearted, with some moments of creepiness and maybe even dark tones. It's a series that deals with a lot of dark issues, but usually has a lighthearted tone to wrap up the episode, as they don't want to leave the audience in a bad mood. However, Law & Order Special Victims Unit is much darker than the other Law & Order series, as it deals with very specific types of cases. Whilst many of the episodes have a creep factor, there are some that are much more chilling than others. So here are the darkest and creepiest Law & Order SVU episodes. True crime is one of the most popular television genres of the modern day, and Law & Order SVU has definitely gone deeper into the genre than any other Law & Order series. It's almost become a true crime show in many aspects, but one episode from Season 9 encapsulates the entire genre. Signature, Episode 12 of its 9th season, is an episode written for true crime fans. This episode focused on a serial killer that's currently on the loose, as there are bodies turning up in Central Park. This episode itself could be a thriller movie, and it wouldn't do a killing at the box office. It's just that good of an episode. The thing is, though, it is extremely creepy and one of the darkest episodes of the series. Signature follows the detectives as they get wrapped up in a huge murder mystery surrounding his serial killer known as the Woodsman. This is already a lot for Law & Order, but things get a lot creepier from here on out. The Woodsman's MO is abducting women, torturing them in his very own torture chamber, and recording their cries for help. This is absolutely awful and is one of the darkest parts of Law & Order. The Woodsman then drowns the women and leaves their bodies for the police to find in the woods in Central Park. The murder team is searching for a truly twisted being, but the ending is one that you definitely won't see coming. The twist is absolutely unreal at the end of the episode, making it actually one of the best Law & Order episodes in this franchise. It's extremely dark, though, which is definitely a pull of people off the Law & Order Special Victims Unit. However, the charm of the series is why people love it so much, even if sometimes they do get a little too dark. They do like to swap things up, though, which is where our next episode comes in. From the same season, but this time episode 15, we have an undercover episode. Undercover is an amazing episode of Law & Order Special Victims Unit, and every fan knows how amazing this episode is. In this episode, we see Olivia Benson go undercover in a prison to investigate a ring of prison guard assaulters. This episode seemed simple enough, but Olivia almost gets assaulted herself. In fact, she's inches away from it. It's a truly awful scene, but she is thankfully saved at the last minute by Odafin Tutola, another undercover cop. This episode really brings a lot of troubles to light, but is really dark in its execution. I mean, this is a real issue in prisons, and the fact that this television series dealt with it so well is amazing. However, for a general viewer, this episode is truly dark. But the show gets much worse than this, so let's get into even more dark episodes from the Law & Order Special Victims Unit. One of the darkest and most beloved arcs in all of Law & Order Special Victims Unit are, of course, the William Lewis set of episodes. Every series has a recurring character, especially Law & Order. Law & Order Special Victims Unit has an ongoing case that appeared throughout different seasons and many episodes. These episodes are beyond disturbing, so it's hard to believe that the William Lewis set of episodes even exists in the same universe as the normal episodes. William Lewis is originally arrested in Central Park for flushing, but the SVU team sadly can't identify him. Why can't they identify him, though? They've got his face. They know who he is, right? Well, here's where things get even darker for the episode, as William Lewis has actually burned his fingerprints off on purpose. This begins a game of cat and mouse as Lewis tries to be one step ahead of the SVU team. Eventually, though, the case is sadly dismissed and he leaves the series for a short while. The coolest thing about this story arc, though, is that it reappears once again in Season 15 and becomes one of the biggest storylines in that season. It might be cool to see a storyline continue, but it gets so much darker from here on out. Lewis's story only really begins here, as following the trial, he breaks into Olivia Benson's apartment and holds her hostage. He forces her to consume various sleeping pills and liquor whilst torturing her. It's another really dark and awful scene to watch and shows how sadistic this man really is. He then drives Olivia to her secluded house where he keeps her incapacitated and bound. This series of episodes is a whole saga and contains plot twist after plot twist. It's some of the darkest episodes of Law & Order you could ever watch and are aired throughout its 15th season. Though it's extremely dark, we have to give this set of episodes the credit that it deserves, as it's absolutely amazing. The storyline is so well thought out and is actually some of the best episodes of Law & Order Special Victims Unit that you can watch. Even after 15 seasons of the series, it just keeps getting better and better, even if they deal with some really dark things. The William Lewis arc can be found in these episodes: Season 14, Episode 24, Season 15, Episode 1, Season 15, Episode 3, Season 15, Episode 10, Season 15, Episode 14, Season 15, Episode 20, and finally wrapping up in Season 15, Episode 21, titled Postmortem Blues. You should definitely check these episodes out, as they are absolutely groundbreaking for the series and some of the darkest they have ever gone. Speaking of the darkest the series has ever gone, we have one of the craziest episodes of Law & Order. Charisma, the 7th episode of its 6th season, is extremely iconic and one of the most important Law & Order SVU episodes. It's one of the most iconic episodes of the Special Victims Unit, as this episode explores a 12-year-old who checks herself into a hospital as she is about to go into labor. Yeah, the series really went there. But it gets even worse, as they discover that this girl is a member of a huge cult led by a charismatic leader who assaults his followers' daughters and gets them pregnant. It's another insanely dark episode, and one that you will definitely remember after watching it. If you remember one thing from this episode, it's the creepy blue-eyed star of the cult, Abraham. He's one creepy guy, and this episode is downright terrifying for most viewers. Coming from the normal Law & Order series, you probably thought that Law & Order Special Victims Unit would just be slightly darker. But in reality, this series is so much darker than Law & Order could ever hope to be. This series really takes things to the darkest parts of the world, and it's really interesting to watch on television. There are many more creepy and disturbing episodes to go over, but we sadly don't have enough time in today's video. There are episodes such as the Glasgow Man's Wrath and Season 4's Dominance. We'd love to go over them in a future video, so let us know your thoughts on everything in the comments below. We hope you enjoyed the video.